Hello everyone. It's July 26th, 2013. This is a Friday. My name is Roxanne Grinage. I'm Legal Assistant, Marketing Careers Project Manager for HireLyrics Administrative Services, which is a 13-year, going on 14 years, registered Pennsylvania and U.S. Department of Treasury Internet company, a sole proprietorship. I am responsible for its ownership and its management. So this video is directed to prosecutors, to special prosecutors, would-be people, legislators who might decide to become prosecutors and investigators of state court malpractice, RICO, racketeering, influence, corrupt organizations investigations, to see if the massive legal malpractice that's occurring in our state courts, our family divisions and our juvenile divisions, is in fact deliberate to aid and abet the racketeering, influence, corrupt organizations, kidnap-for-profit schemes of the many departments, states, departments of human services entrusted to dispense the federal Children's Protective Services money and prisoners' contracts. I'm speaking to prosecutors about this Pennsylvania, this August 1st report that's coming out. As you know, as a legal assistant, I've demonstrated the importance now, practically every business function, security, legal support services, education, entertainment, everyone now needs to also market, all right? You can't just do one and not the other. You need to market into the consumer audiences the message, the work, product, contribution, even if it's of thought. You have to identify your consumer audience. For us, in court reform, judicial accountability, U.S. economy reform, education, prison reform, and public integrity reform, our consumer audience is litigation, litigators, no-nonsense, federally practicing attorneys, and Department of Justice, law enforcement, local law enforcement in each city, state, and town, and state law enforcement all the way up to federal law enforcement. Okay, we want to get our data to someone who is authorized, whose position description says that they are authorized, and whose demeanor, work product contribution, takes their oaths to uphold public safety, the U.S. Constitution and the state's Constitution and the laws very seriously. We want the attention of law enforcement. So what I'm finding is, just like when we demonstrate through standard access the registering of claims, it immediately identifies the assailant. It immediately, not immediately, eventually through the insertion of verified data, claims, witness testimony, evidence, docket, case history, on rows and columns, we are able to see a table that does identify who the assailants are. The official corruption, who was officially positioned to perpetrate felony crimes, and who was maybe incompetent or just unwitting, just didn't know any better, needed training. So we're able to measure individual accountability now. But what we're also seeing is we're also measuring certain unique characteristics of the crime victim pool. The federal crime victim is created by some sort of perjury which causes legal malpractice in a state court, and eventually a plethora, a domino effect, irreparable harms of official corruption, fraud, and civil rights, personal injuries, disability, wrongful death, threat, and unlawful imprisonment. So I'm speaking to prosecutors now about what we noticed coming through. HireLyrics noticed that many couples started coming, presenting together. Whether they were still together as a family or not, the victimization, the kidnap for profit of their children during a domestic relations dispute by that third-party entity, the Department of Health and Human Services, or the Children Protective Services funded agency, the employee misconduct, caused them to come together, unified, to make sure that they try to rescue their child from the personal injuries of foster care abuse, personal injuries, and so on. Go to my website, www.HireLyrics.org. As it gets closer to August 1st, when we are about to transmit, I'm going to transmit what we're calling now the Grinage report. It's going to be transmitted to, yes, Pennsylvania Attorney General Kathleen Kane, but several law enforcement officials and litigators seeking grand jury investigation of Philadelphia Family Division and Philadelphia Juvenile Court judges who are identified. We are going to do it whether or not the contracts that we came up with are specifically customized to allow for the very damaged, very wounded federal crime victim population that becomes a claimant. There is so much destruction emotionally, mentally, financially, that the crime victim has to be managed in a contract as well before any help can be rendered to them. So that is why HireLyrics gets your signature, gets a crime victim's signature on a contract, which authorizes us to, even if we don't publish it on the internet for law enforcement to see and adjudicators to see, ethical adjudicators to see, we can still submit it, transmit it to those people whose position descriptions and funding guidelines require them to be interested, or their own spirits and demeanor. Working law enforcement are working class people too. We learned this. Law enforcement are working class people too, struggling to support their families and balance acts of tyranny against their fellow brothers and sisters with their own codes of principles, morals, and spirituality. Okay, and the law, okay? So we have a work order. Everything that we do is for the purpose of, when people say, why did you file something into a family court? The reason we file into a family court isn't because we think that we're going to get justice. It isn't because we think that the court is ever going to acknowledge that it's received. Judge Jonathan Irvine, Judge Robert J. Matthews are infamous for destroying filings in the federal court, literally putting things in the shredder, saying that evidence on disk does not exist, erasing disk. The clerk buries, Philadelphia Family Court, the clerk literally buries emergency petitions, buries it for filing, okay? Acts like they don't know where it is. We even have an incident where the litigant mother shows up on time and she's headed off by the court officer, told the court is canceled today. You're late and it's canceled. There is no court today. And your fifth emergency petition is dismissed. So these are the things that we want investigated. These are felony crimes happening in our court that can only happen with the consent and participation of our adjudicators, all right, which are elected. They're elected. They can be brought in. I never thought I'd be able to see the formation, the evolution of a scattered, chaotic, in every different direction population of crime victims begin to speak in a unified voice, begin to speak in unison as a voter constituency and as a claimant constituency. And I'll forever be grateful for that. Okay? If you need any information about the Nazira Nixon case study that HireLyrics has, please contact me. Ezekiel Brown and Ariel Brown, please contact me. Ikeem Bradley, Taquan Myatt, Armstead Pitts versus City of Philadelphia, DHS. And Azira Nixon versus City of Philadelphia DHS foster injuries. No matter where she is, transported in New York or not, the foster care abuse injuries did occur here. City of Philadelphia DHS has presented a public safety emergency for us all. The Fred Nelly case in California and Nevada. Fred Nelly, parents of Fred Nelly minor versus Sebastian Martinez. Contact me if you want information about the liability of Sebastian Martinez criminal child abuse injuries to the Fred Nelly minor child. Okay, this is not about paternity. It is not about custody. It is about personal injury, and the cause of action is perjury and legal malpractice that gives criminal child abusers access to their victims, their child victims. Judge Robert J. Matthews here in Philadelphia has more criminal child abuse victims than do the Kids for Cash judges in the Middle District, Pennsylvania, or Penn State Gary Sandusky put together. The data verifies that. Our report's going in, God willing, if he keeps me alive, God willing, it's going in August 1st to the Pennsylvania Prosecutors and Public Integrity Commissioners, regardless of threats. Okay? All right. God bless everyone. My number is 267-444-0594. If something happens to HireLyrics.org, you can see our Pay Now buttons and a lot of our links to our contracts and our case study documents at www.whatistheirelefttodo.com. That's www.whatistheirelefttodo.com. I'm Roxanne Grinage, and I promised 6-8-10 mob assault, PKPA kidnap because of the destruction and corruption of Fern Brown Kaplan and Judge Robert J. Matthews in Philadelphia Family Court by Eric L. Brown and Sandra O'Sullivan, my grandchildren, Ezekiel Zaid Kyle Brown and Ariel Roxanne Brown, that their irreparable harm, their destruction, will not be in vain, that children of all ages will be rescued. God bless you all. Take care.